looked really intense because it was focused so hard on that fishing movements or the pause. The green that's reflected in the water in front is actually just from a tree branch. Never turn your back and run because it will outrun you, no problem, and it'll set off its prey drives. If you run from it, it's just naturally gonna like think, oh, this is a chase, this is a hunt now, so it'll chase you down and you'll lose.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Photographer Profile. My name is Nathan Rupert, and I started this channel to give photographers a worldwide platform to share their work and stories. My guest today, Kristoff. Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Nathan. How are you doing?
Great. Please just give the viewers an introduction about yourself and your photography for those
Awesome.
watching.
Yeah, my name's Kristoff Druva. I'm a wildlife photographer based out of Denver, Colorado. I spend most of my time that I can getting up to Alaska and kind of out into the wilderness to spend time with wild animals and capture their beauty to help protect them and work with conservation groups to spread the word to help keep wildlife safe and thriving.
Are you professional? Is photography your full-time career, your full-time income?
I'd say like half professionals. I make money off it parts of the year, and I do like guiding and stuff like that as well. I also have to work a day job as well to
Oh,
fund
no.
the trips. It's a bit of both. I'd say professional, but half the time.
Same here. I have a 9 to 5. It's very hard to make it
It
in
is.
San Diego as a photographer full-time.
Photography is tough to make a full living on for sure.
What are all your hobbies outside of photography? I know you mentioned guiding.
Yeah, so I do some guiding. I'm just kind of getting into that world. I did my first guide trip with my buddy Sturgis Hannon, and he's like lives in Alaska. I did that with him in September. I have some stuff in the works going for next summer, doing a puffin workshop in Iceland, hopefully, and then another workshop or two maybe in Alaska as well. So have that kind of going in the works. That's going to be coming next summer. So.
Iceland is definitely a bucket list item for me and most photographers I've talked to on this podcast. I'm very jealous.
Beautiful. Yeah, you got to get up there, man. It's a good time. It's actually just like wild how incredible the landscapes are there.
All right, well, let's look at your picture showcase. Let's jump right into it. We have a lot of pictures to go through. Let me share my screen real fast here.
Sounds good.
Okay, can you see that?
I do, yeah.
So yeah, just give us the overview of this shot and why you decided to feature it.
This one I just been dreaming of getting. So this was taken in Iceland, and I went there with my fiance. And my two goals of animals to photograph were puffins and Arctic fox, and I was lucky enough to see both of those on my trip. But I got a lot of nice time with the puffins, and this one just getting to get one that was just sitting right on the bank. Because a lot of time they're in cliff cavities and they're hard to get eye level with. When I saw the flowers in the foreground, I worked on it for however long I could. It started raining, it started getting windy because it's Iceland on the coast. This was like just one of my favorite shots from that trip.
I had some previous guests that had puffin pictures too, and I've seen a lot of shots where they have like 5 pieces of fish in their beak or something like that. Did you see them munching down on that stuff?
It's crazy that they do that. Yeah, they just catch so many, and then it's just they look so cool with like the fish in the mouth just lined all the way up.
Are they pretty skittish around humans, or you could get pretty close?
Depending on how you approach them, if you're pretty calm and like just move slowly, it's all dependent on the actual bird too. So depending on which one you're working with, some of them are more skittish than others, but for the most part, if you're slow and not like walking right up to them, they're pretty chill and laid back. There's times where I'd be sitting on the cliff and one would be flying in, and I'd sit up a little bit to like readjust or get my leg from falling asleep, and it would be trying to like kind of land near me and just zoom right past me once it saw me. So it all depends on the actual bird.
What focal length did you shoot this?
This is at my 400 millimeters.
400. Okay,
that's my main.
That's what I have too.
400 f2.8. So that's my it's beautiful.
2.8 400. That's pretty expensive. That's a nice lens. I'm jealous.
Yeah. The banks love me. I always say my credit card companies love me because I bought that lens. So yeah.
All right. Well, let me get the next one ready.
All right.
This is a cute, a cute one.
Oh yeah. This is the same trip, but this was towards the end of it. I'd started getting sick because we were there for about a week, and middle of that trip, I sat out on the cliff with some puffins in really cold, windy weather. I wasn't dressed up enough. I didn't have like gloves. I didn't have the right hat. I didn't have the right gear on. Even though I had it in my car, I didn't want to go back and get it. I kind of got like started feeling like, oh no, I'm not going to see an Arctic fox. We had driven the whole ring road by then. And on our second to last day, we were driving this road, and it looked like a little prairie dog running across the road. It was that small. These are just little Arctic fox kits. It looked so small, and I was like, was that like a squirrel or what was it? And I pulled off and got out my lens, and I looked at it, and it was just like, I was like, no way, that's a little fox kit. And I followed it out to its den. It brought me to its brother or sister, obviously, I don't know,
Wow.
sibling of some sort. And I never got to see mom and dad, but these two were just so cute. And this one was braver than the other one for sure. So I got some really nice photos of this one.
It's crazy as wandering without a mom or dad
Yeah, I mean,
around.
they're really small when they're young, but they get on it pretty quickly. I don't know if maybe one of its parents was where it was coming from and it was going towards the other one, or just back to the den, or what happened. But I'm surprised I didn't end up seeing its parents at all. So just I wished I could have, but if I had more time, I probably would have. But yeah, they were just so cute.
A couple questions for you before we look at some more photos.
Yeah.
What excites you to go out there and shoot, to do these photo trips, to keep going out there day after day? What keeps you going?
For me, it's a really big sense of peace. I love getting out into places where people don't normally go. It calms me down. I don't have any worries. I don't wake up in the middle of the night thinking of like work or something like that. This isn't even like remotely feels like work. It's like an absolute passion. The benefit of it all to me is that making people see these photos, and there's a lot of hatred towards certain animals, and for conservation purposes, I want to spread the beauty of them so that people love it and want to protect it. And that's the biggest thing for me, is like I want to help people fall in love with the wildlife as much as I have.
Which animals are hated? I'm just curious from your point of view.
Well, a lot of just apex predators, wolves in Yellowstone and other parts of the country. So Wyoming, Montana, Alaska. There's killing contests for coyotes, for foxes, because people don't want to believe that they're actually good for the ecosystem and they help prevent diseases throughout deer and elk populations. It's a very controversial topic. Bears as well. Grizzly bears are hated by some people because they're looking for food sometimes in the winter, and some cattle once in a while might get attacked or killed by one of these animals, and people just unfortunately want to go and say, we don't need these wolves, like we need to kill them off. And they're really just trying to survive. They're not doing it out of any evil spirit or anything like that. There's some animosity towards them for sure, sadly.
What is the best piece of photography advice you've been given by a mentor or that you've learned over your career? What kind of advice would you like to pass on to other people watching this episode?
I think for me, the biggest thing that changed how I photograph and how I capture images are take your time if you can. Obviously, if a subject's moving fast and you have no time to like change any sort of position, that's one thing. If you have an animal or a subject in general, person, whether you shoot people or animals or landscapes or whatever, try to find a different angle. So think about, how can I make the light work with me better versus just taking a shot of the animal? What's behind it? Is there a bunch of sticks behind it really close? Can you remove that area by moving? Because I'm a big believer in not AI. It's like people take out branches and stuff with their artificial intelligence kind of programs. I pretty much avoid that exclusively because I want to just be able to get the shot out of the camera. Obviously cropping and editing, but I want to be able to get the actual end shot without having to remove stuff from it.
Let's take a look at your next photo here.
All right.
This is a very moody picture.
It was a very moody night. This was one of my favorite shots of all time, actually. I was in Lake Clark, this past summer, so summer of 24 in August. I was with my buddy Sergis Hannon and another buddy Mike Rigney. We're all photographers, wildlife photographers. We were camped out in Lake Clark, and we had to walk always every night. We'd like walk to where these bears would kind of be more often than not. It was almost a guarantee that we were going to be able to see some bears fishing without us really realizing it. Our camping trip fell over a full moon. And it's hard, first off, getting a bear that's out active fishing in the dark is going to be hard. Pushing your camera settings to the limit to get exposure on both the bear and the moon without blowing it out too much or ruining it with too much noise. Following night, we like came out, and we don't want to really walk back in the dark with bears roaming around, but it was like one of those things where probably the only opportunity we're going to have to get this. We had to worry about tide coming in because this is during low tides. We've got a bear that happened to be standing up. This was the shot with the moon rising behind it, full moon. Rising right behind this beautiful female. Her cub is off to the left, but not in the frame here. But yeah, just beautiful.
This is where the 2.8 really shines, right? To be able to get this kind of stuff in this low light.
Oh yeah, these settings were, I want to say I was definitely below like 1/100th of a second. I'd have to check the exact settings again, but even at that 1/100th of a second below that, even I still had to crank my ISO. I don't know if it was 12,000 or not, but it was cranked up, 6,400 minimum. Getting the noise out of there was a little tough, but denoise is always a nice, helpful bit of work in Lightroom. So
is there an ISO limit? You say I never go above. Is 6,400 kind of the max from your point of view? I never go above this.
I'll go up to 12.8 if I have to. After a certain point, pushing the shadows, even if you're underexposed at 64 or less, it kind of creates the same amount of noise as shooting as 12,800 ISO. So I'm not really afraid. With the right amount of noise reduction, you can kind of get away with it.
I know you mentioned AI. What do you see as the future of photography in 20 to 30 years? What do you think it'll be like?
I am concerned that possibly something will happen where there will be enhancement in camera with a chip that, once it's connected to internet or something, it'll use a different image or multiple images to try to recreate the same image within the photo. I don't know if that's true. It's one of those things where it's all speculation. I think it's going to be a lot harder to tell AI apart from a true photograph. It already is getting really difficult to tell. I'll be honest, there's some photos that get posted and I, for a second, or even until it's told that it's AI, I will believe sometimes that that's an actual photograph. That's what my biggest worry is, that real photography is gonna suffer at the hands of AI.
We'll see what happens.
Hopefully not, but that's just that's my concern.
All right, let's take a look at your next one.
All right,
this is intense stare down.
And honestly, it wasn't even that intense, but it is just one of those moments within a moment that seems very intense. That's the beauty of a photograph, is sometimes it's not exactly what it seems. This is in Kodiak, Alaska, and this is on one of the trips I was guiding on with Sergis in September. So beautiful bear, but it was just fishing for these spawned out salmon, and sometimes just a carcass of a rotting salmon. It was just kind of like scooping its paws underneath the water, but you can't see that, obviously. It would happen to look at me and just was focusing on fishing below the water, but it looked really intense because it was focused so hard on that fishing movements or the paws. What I love is just the green that's reflected in the water in front is actually just from a tree branch that's behind and above the bear that hangs over the water a little bit. So it's just a really cool reflection. But some people are thought it was AI because they're like, oh, those northern lights above the bear. I was like, no, that's like a tree. It's one of those things that, to me, I sometimes take it as a compliment if someone calls me using AI or says I'm using AI or say it's a fake photo. I'm like, thank you, I guess, because I can see the raw, and this is an actual photograph of mine. So, the accusation is a compliment.
Did it end up catching any fish? Did you see
Oh
it?
yeah, I mean plenty. I mean these guys are so fat. They're just sitting there eating. I mean, like literally, they're just kind of swiping their paws and ripping off parts of the. It's already a dead fish mostly. It's just kind of ripping them off, or they kind of can't swim anymore, and it's just feasting. It's like a buffet.
That's a great shot. Next question for you. What do you
Yeah.
want to happen to all your photos when you die, when you're no longer here? Have you ever thought about that? What kind of legacy or what do you want to happen to all these
Um,
photos you've
I
taken?
really, I really eventually want to start a gallery so that I can sell more of my work and donate a lot of that income to conservation efforts. At the end of the day, I would love to donate more than I do. I would love to eventually have my legacy be that my work was able to provide money to help protect that and for future generations down the line. That's my biggest thing, and just to have it in the family that you know I got to spend time where a lot of people don't. That's always a cool accomplishment to me is I get to be where a lot of people, like 90%, 99% of people probably will never go. So
Is there an arts district with a lot of photography galleries near you where you're at?
in Boulder, there's a decent, like a bigger art community, but the problem is a lot of my work isn't from Colorado. So I would love to have a gallery in Alaska, or but it's at the same time it's tough to. How do you run that? It's seasonal a lot of the time for people coming to buy stuff. I don't know. That's the thing. I haven't really figured out where I would do it. But the problem is none of my, like, most of my photos are not from Colorado. It's weird to have a gallery in Colorado with almost nothing from here.
Hey, it might be a niche, right?
I
That
mean,
you
maybe that's you never know. That's exactly, yeah, good point. You never know.
Okay, let's take a look at more bears.
More bears. I mean, that's most of my portfolio these days is bears. This was Kodiak, same kind of area that that other bear we were just looking at was staring me down in the water. But this time in Kodiak, we were there for about 4 days, 3 or 4 days. And we had yet to see a mom and cubs. And this was really like the last day. This was the last day. I went out in the early morning and we were flying out in the evening that day, I believe. I got back to this area and I was talking on the phone with another photographer that we're friends with out there, Chris Luck. And he and I were going to meet up and go see if we could find something. I was on the phone. I was like, oh my God, dude, I just saw mom and two cubs crossing the road. Like, come here. I sent him my pin. And that was it. I just basically hunkered down until mom and cubs walked right past, and so these were a koi. So cub of the year is a koi. They had been born probably late winter, fall season of 24. It was just a really special, that's the sunrise behind them, and just really special moment. And I was just by myself with these guys. There's a specialty too to like being alone with this type of moment, so
I
it
love
was
the
a
symmetry, right? They have the exact same
step.
like
Yeah,
walk. Yeah, it's
I love
crazy.
it. Yeah, that's my favorite part about this photo too, is the color, but also just that both of their arms are out at the same exact position, and they're just walking and looking. Neither of them are looking at me. I love that I didn't disturb them.
Do you carry like bear spray with you at all time? I assume.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bear
Okay.
spray was ready, and I think at one point they turned towards me because I was shifting around to like not again fall over with my gear essentially, and the mom kind of looked at me and I ended up just kind of like kneeling and backing off a bit more because first off, I don't want to alter their behavior. Second, I don't want to be attacked, and third, I don't want to stress the mom out, or any of them out really. So I backed up, but I had my bear spray in my hand at that point, just in case, because she looked at me like, what are you doing right here, man? I was just being really careful. A lot of these bears are pretty used to people because there's a lot of fishermen that are out and about, and they walk past and they'll take their fish sometimes too if they're not protecting their fish, like if the fishermen leave it out for some reason. These bears
Yeah.
are pretty used to people, especially in Kodiak.
So we've seen these perfect photos. What aspect of photography do you feel like you need to most improvement on, or you want to learn?
uh I've been working on more pulling out my photos a little bit more. I usually shoot with my 400 2.8 because to me, I just love getting to see that emotion in the eye and the reflection, and just that really close up that you don't usually get to see with animals. But I am trying to work on pulling out more and using 50 millimeter 1.2 that I just love
Okay.
for it. Still blows out backgrounds a bit, even if the subject's smaller in the frame. I think I sent a photo over, and I'm not sure if that's the next one you're putting up, but there's one with the bear swimming in the water essentially in like the golden hour sunrise. That's a one with my 50 millimeter. I switched over from my 400 real quick to get that. And the bokeh on the water that is like running off the rocks in front of the bear, I just love that look. That's my thing I want to work on more is I'm trying to be more actively focused on putting on that more pulled out lens and getting that wider shot.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
The more artistic
It is.
side
Yeah,
of
it
it a
really
little bit.
is, you
Yeah.
know. It definitely is.
Okay. Yeah. That might be the next one that you're talking about. Let me open it. Yeah. This is it.
All right, perfect.
Good lead in. I like that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Help
I
me
was like,
out.
I can't remember how many we've done now, but this one exactly. This one it was in Kodiak, same river that other bear that was staring me down with the green reflection. This was a different bear, different morning, and I switched over to the 50 and just loved how the bank. That's the bank of just the riverbed. This riverbed goes away at high tide. That's why there's water on it, is because it's at high tide, like an hour previous, the water is probably an extra foot or two higher than this. Once it dropped down, it just left those nice little reflections on the foreground.
I like that. I like the clouds
That too. Oh
too.
yeah, it was a
Sets the
beautiful
scene.
morning. It really does. It really does.
Do you have a dream shot in your mind that you haven't taken yet? You're like, I want to take this photo someday before.
Honestly, the one that kind of came to fruition was that bear with the moon rising. That was probably one of
Okay.
my biggest dream shots. I'd say I really love capturing action. I don't think I sent many action photos I have, but I really love like capturing like when bears are fighting or an animal is doing something that's quicker paced, and if you miss that moment it's gone kind of thing. I really want to get a photo of like bears essentially in the middle of a fight, which I have a video of. I have like a really nice slow-mo video of it, of
Wow.
these two bears fighting over a fish carcass, but I wish I could have gotten a still from it because it was just absolutely epic. Some of the faces they were making. I have a couple shots of bear siblings fighting, but nothing close up of an actual fight going down with that really nice clean background, like mountains in the background. But I really will say that moon rising over the bear, that was a bucket list shot for a long time. And
You're getting your portfolio ready for National Geographic to call you
oh
sometime
man, that would
soon.
be awesome. That would be absolutely epic. I hope so.
Okay, you sent me a missed shot, quote unquote missed
Yep.
shot.
Yep.
Let's take a look at that. I like to showcase these too, just because you got
No,
to give
yeah.
the whole gamut, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's more misses than hits. This is like maybe 3 minutes or so after that other shot we just looked at, that wide angle shot.
Yeah.
This was with my 50, but when you're shooting into direct sunlight, if it just missed and the grab focus on a different part, so grab focus on like the rocks in front of that bear, I believe. I can't remember if it's in front or behind. But anyway, it didn't grab focus on the rim light on the bear, which was what I was going for. I would have loved to be a slightly different position, like a little bit over to the left, so that light line was coming from in between its legs and it was right in front of the sun line. But I also missed focus, so it really doesn't matter anymore. I wasn't paying attention to where my focus box was and just missed it.
This looks like an ad for global warming or something like that. Like some
Right?
climate change group might use this. Think it's a
Right.
polar bear. They could think it's a polar bear or something.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
that.
yeah, exactly. There you go. That's one of my misses. Majority shots when I'm importing are missed shots, and you're just kind of searching for the good ones. Keeper rate has definitely gone up with new technology and mirrorless and IAF and all that. There's so many different things that where I'm constantly just changing my settings because I do shoot full manual. I don't shoot auto ISO or anything.
Really? Full
Yeah,
manual. Even
I'm
action shots, you shoot full manual.
even action shots. I still will like usually have my settings set up for the for the environment it's in. And pulling shadows is a lot easier than dropping blown out highlights. If I'm a little underexposed, I'm not usually too worried about it. By the time I get through auto ISO or through ISO changes, shutter speed, and usually on my aperture is just wide open, so I'm not changing that very much. But yeah, it's by the time I get through that, there's a lot of room for error. So
that's hard to do. Well, respect for that. That's a lot of work to do full manual. Yeah. You've had a lot of close encounters that we talked about. Any weird, crazy, wild stories that you can think of off the top of your head?
In Lake Clark 2 summers ago when I was there, it was my first time ever backpacking, camping, first off. So never done it before. Second, with a bunch of photography gear. And I was with a buddy that was also his first time. Third, we were also camping with bears with a bear fence around our campsite. So it was like a lot of firsts going on in a very semi-dangerous environment, because if you can't keep food in your campsite, you have to have food stored in a tree hung up like 100 yards away. And then you cook 100 yards away from both of those sites. So you have to be very careful with that. But what happened was the scariest thing was our first day there. We set up camp and then we left, and so we were walking on this coastline in the sand, and there was a bear sleeping, a big boar, like a big male bear sleeping in the sand. I didn't want to disturb him, and my buddy and I were like, okay, let's just go up this like well, it was kind of dunes, I guess, but we kind of like went up to where it was a bunch of flowers. I was going around the bear and I was focusing, looking at the bear, making sure I wasn't disturbing it while I was going up this way to get a different side of it and just kind of leave it alone. Well, happened to be another bear immediately on the top of that bluff, but I couldn't see
it. Oh my God.
Down in the flowers. It was like one of those moments where you have to be on so much more guard than you expect, because they're just napping in the middle of the day. I almost stepped on this bear. That's how close I was. It sat up.
Wow.
And it was taller than me. It didn't even stand. It just sat up and looked at me, and I almost fell backwards because I had just climbed up here and gotten up to the top, and it was right here in front of my face. It was scary. It was a very scary moment. I didn't have my bear spray. I had it on me, but I didn't have time to get it out. If it had just done one swipe to like wave me away or shoo me away, I'd probably be dead right now. Very scary moment. It wasn't agitated. It just laid back down. Once I backed off and got down, it just laid back down. I was like, all right, we're not doing that again. Like, we went to a different, much more gradual slope up. So that's one of the biggest moments I remember. Another one, that same day, later in the day, we came back. We had like been hiking around for a few miles. We came back and we were photographing a bear from a good distance, not super close, not super far, but it looked up finally and stared at me. And I was like, And then it started looking like it was going to do something. So I dropped my camera and it did a bluff charge. It didn't charge my buddy. It charged me. We both pulled out our bear spray, dropped our cameras, pulled out the bear spray, didn't shoot, because you don't want to shoot a bear spray or shoot your bear spray on a bluff charge, only if it does it a second time, or if it's actually if there's pretty much no distance left anymore, because if you waste your shot, you're kind of screwed if it tries to actually go again. So if you don't shoot it far enough, or if there's wind, there's a lot of factors that go into bear spray and like knowing how to use it. But luckily this bear, it didn't stop in its bluff. It just veered off about 10, 15 feet in front of me. So it ran from 40 feet out of nowhere and then beelined it to me and then cut off when I didn't move. You stand your ground. And that was the most scared though I've ever been. It was an agitated charge from a bear in remote. We flew in on a little plane that lands on the beach. We're not getting airlifted out any quick time. I'm going to bleed out by the time.
Oh, Jesus.
That was a very scary situation. So
Is that what people should do when they don't have bear spray? Is just stand your ground? What do you recommend people do if they encounter a bear?
Coastal brown bears, they're not quite as aggressive as grizzly bears. They're usually pretty well fed. Unless you piss them off, they're usually pretty chill with you. Grizzlies are more hunter. They're more opportunistic eaters because they're more inland. Pretty much if those bears charge you, and if you don't have bear spray, you stand your ground, and you don't want to like look bigger necessarily. If you can get your group tighter, if you have multiple people, tighten your group up so you look like a bigger unit, but don't try to like give your arms and look bigger and scary, because it'll take it more as a challenge than an actual fear thing. So standing your ground, not being too intimidated, never turn your back and run, because it will outrun you, no problem, and it'll set off its prey drives. It's just naturally going to like think, oh, this is a chase, this is a hunt now. it'll chase you down and you'll lose. They can run a million times faster than you. And if it does happen to get you, you want to flip over as much as you can and like curl up so you can protect your organs, put your hands around the back of your neck, really kind of protect your vital organs essentially from swipes. Because one swipe, I mean, those nails are huge. Like you're not winning. Black bears are a little different. Black bears, you can kind of try to intimidate and stuff like that, and be bigger and yell at them, and they'll kind of go away. It's all about the bear, not necessarily about the type of bear. It's about, is that bear an upset bear? How agitated? How hungry? There's so many other factors that kind of come into it. So, yeah.
Good to know. Good information.
Yeah.
Who knew this podcast would be giving life-saving information to people out there?
Exactly. Bring bear spray is the big thing. Don't not bring bear spray or a flare. You can bring a flare too, and they don't like the popping of a flare, so that can scare them off too.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. What's the best way for people to contact you? Do you prefer a website, Instagram? How do you prefer people to contact you?
Both are fine. My website is Kristoff Druva Photography.com, and my Instagram is Kristoff Druva Wildlife. I'm quicker to respond on Instagram because it goes to my messages, but I also get emailed, and I have a contact form on my website. I have my print shop on my website. That's all accessible if people are looking for holiday gifts. I have calendars, a puffin calendar this year.
It's nice people still buy physical calendars in the age of digital.
It is.
World.
It's a great holiday gift too for people. It's not super expensive. It's if you know someone that loves wildlife, it's a really nice little gift to give people. So
you mentioned a workshop.
I'm in the process of setting that up and just kind of figuring out my timeline. I'm getting married in July. My fiance and I are getting married.
Congrats.
So yeah, thank you. A lot of planning going on there. I have 2 other Alaska trips booked. So I'm trying to work around that for the Iceland trip and figure out when I want to for sure do it. And the next couple months, I have to have it all solidified. So puffin trip in Iceland. I'll be bringing a small group. Like we'll do camper vans or hotels. Depends on kind of what is available for the time frame.
What does your fiance think about your photography and all this money you're spending on it?
She's so amazing. She's a great support system for me. She's always encouraging me. Yeah.
Have you tried to teach her? Have you tried to teach her to use your camera and
we got her a Nikon ZF. So I shoot Nikon Z9s. And we got her a Nikon ZF. She's a really good artistic eye for portraiture. And I shoot weddings as well to make some money and portraiture when I'm in town here in Denver. I was like, oh, we should shoot weddings together. And she would take photos with her phone even. I was like, wow, you got the angle exactly right. The light is beautiful. So we got her a camera and she's, slowly building that skill set, and hopefully we can tackle some wedding stuff together.
There you go. You can do weddings to pay for your wedding.
Exactly. That's the plan too. Part of it. Absolutely.
Any final thoughts? Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it. I appreciate the questions and excited to hopefully inspire some people to get out and shoot some more wildlife too.
All right. Well, I'll see you on Instagram. Looking forward to seeing more of the shots coming up here.
Awesome. Soon. Sounds good, man. Nice to meet you again. And appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
All right.